Morning, everybody. Lovely to see you. Oh, as soon as I start to talk to you, I get a frog in my throat. Lovely to see you, and thank you for taking the time to come and join me. Hope you've got a cup of tea or a cup of coffee and sit there for 20 minutes, half an hour, just to see what we're all up to. Lovely to see lots of people join us that we know, and I would just like to say I'm not sure whether she will get a chance to see this, but one of our lovely crafting family, Fiona Carpenter, did send a message today. I don't know if any of you saw it, to say that she won't be able to join us today because she's with her lovely husband at her lovely husband's funeral. And I'm really very, very sorry to hear that, Fiona. And I know I speak on behalf of everybody here today that's joined us, that we all send our very best love and hope that all goes well for you today. So, without further ado, a really simple thing to do today. I've picked a couple of stamps that I have used quite a bit in the past, and also a sentiment die which I haven't used, and that one says Hugs and Kisses, so that's a nice little one. And this one is called Umbrella Grass. So they are sort of like our, could you say, focal point. But how am I going to make the background? Well, how I'm going to make the background is really quite simple. I've already cut myself out. I'm going to make some 5x7 cards. So I've already cut myself out some blanks here. And you may be able to see, because they're only just in line, that I've got a varying amount here of different inks, because I thought it'd be nice to show you how the technique that I'm going to use will show the different thing. So what we need to use with this, and I'm sure you've seen it before, is some acrylic blocks. And I've got some here. So I have got two from the range of the Crafts 2 ones, which are the small and medium acrylic blocks. And I like those because they've got like that little pretty edge to it. Obviously, the whole idea of the edge is that you've got something to hold on to with all your fingers, but when you're doing acrylic blocks. But what I want to do here is something a bit different. So we've got those, and I've also got another acrylic block that's been sitting in my desk. I did think that I'd cleaned it. I can see it's got a little tiny bit of you know what on it. So we don't want that, because I'm actually going to do some printing with my acrylic blocks. So I'm not going to use them to put the stamp on. I'm going to use my stamping platform for that, because I do feel that that's the best way to stamp these days, to be honest with you. But I'm just going to put some different types of ink onto my acrylic blocks and do a bit of stamping and get a bit of background. So first of all, I'm going to use some distress inks. So I kind of feel that the distress inks are probably the easiest way to show you this technique. And the other inks that I've got are sort of, this is what will happen if you use this type of ink, but these ones are probably the best. So I take my acrylic block. Now, it doesn't matter what size it is, what shape it is. You can have round ones. You can have absolutely the very, very thin, flat ones. Rocker block ones aren't going to work. Now, this one has got, if you feel it, it's got like a grid on one side. And that's not really the side that we want to put the ink on. We want to put the side on the side that we want to put the ink on the side where it is completely smooth. You can put it on that side. You will get a lovely effect, but for what I want to show you today, I'm going to put it on this side. And all I'm simply going to do is take some of my distress inks. In this case, I'm going with dried marigold. And I'm going to just pick up the ink onto my acrylic block. Now, it won't be easy to see whether I have or not. I'm just going to have to sort of pop that into the light and just about see if I've got it. And then I'm going to take some water, and I'm just going to try not to get it everywhere. I'm going to do, when I spray the water in a minute, I'm going to do that elsewhere so that we don't get quite so much mess. I'm just going to spray that with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to take my piece of paper that I'm going to work on, and I'm going to pop that up on the top bit there. And I'm just going to press down so that it gives me a shape and an image. So the shape has come from the outside of my block. So if I used a smooth side, it would be smooth. My ink has been, because I'm using the distress inks, I need to put a new pair of teeth in today, but it's Wednesday, so I don't usually do that on a Wednesday. I have got some little splodges, hopefully you'll be able to see. Some little splodges have inked up and some haven't, so it gives it a really lovely effect. I'm then going to do exactly the same again. So I'm just going to ink up my acrylic block. Okay, so that I've got a nice lot of ink on it. I'm going to take it to one side this time, pop a little bit of water on, and then come back over here, and I'm going to do another one down here. So they will all be different because of the different amounts of ink I've got and in the different places. So it's very much an abstract type of thing. And then I'm going to do one more. And again, just picking the ink up. If you've got a darker ink, it will show better. But you'll be able to see. You can see that you can't see very much of the ink on there. But when you put it onto here, you can. And again, depending on how much water you've got on, depending on what size block you've got on, what colour ink and everything, you'll get a different look. So hopefully if you see that, you can see that I've got a different look each time that I put it down. Okay. And I'm going to leave that to one side just for a minute because having put the water on, it needs to dry just a little bit. So that one is with your distress inks. Okay. So now let's move over. And I'm going to bring in my dye-based inks. So these are the Memento Dewdrops. So any dye-based inks will give you a similar look. And I'm going to change over from that one to this one, which is the long one. And again, it's got the little markings on the back there, the grids, which are perfect for actually if you're doing sentiments and things and using them as your acrylic block would normally be intended for, that's fine. But we want to use the smooth side, which is this side. And I'm going to put a mixture of colours. So I've got Summer Sky, Rosebud and Lulu Lavender. And because these are sort of like the little dewdrops, I'm going to just put little bits of ink onto my acrylic block in different places. Okay, so just randomly popping that on and try to get it where I haven't got any areas. Try to get that. Then I'm going to grab myself a darker blue one. So this one is Bahama Blue, and I'm just going to come around the sides. So just going around the edges of my block like that. So I've just got, whoops, that colour coming around the outside. Okay. So these are, as I said, dye-based inks. I'm just going to spray it very slightly so that I've got a little bit of movement in there. Then I'm going to carefully turn it round, turn it like this, and then pop that down to one side of my paper and give it a little bit of push. So depending on what colour inks you've used, it will look different depending on how much water you've used, and of course the different shape of your acrylic block. These are all going to look very, very different. So if you see here now, we've got not such a deeper coverage because you've got these inks. Now these inks obviously don't actually really work. Well, they work with water because they're dye-based, but these actually have something in them that makes the water, you know, whatever, do something more. But still gives you that really pretty effect of all the different colours. And because I put the darker piece on the edge, it just shows up that edge a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to clear that one off a second. And then I'm going to bring in So it just wipes off, no problem with that one. So then I'm going to bring in another piece of paper, and this time I'm going to use the smaller one again. So make sure I've got the side which is the smooth side, and this time I'm going to go for the Pigment Inks, which will give an even different look to it. So this is the VersaFine Pigment Ink, which is an oil-based ink. So we no need to put water on it, because if we do, that'll just roll off. So there's no need to do that. So there is just a solid ink with this one. So when we pick up our ink, we need to just make sure that we've got a full covering, because it will be very, very sticky. And I'm going to do the same pattern, supposedly, the same style, and pop that in the top corner. You can see that that's much more of a solid colour. Okay, so I'm going to pick that up again and then bring that one down here. Now, as I said, you can't add the water to this, because it will just sit on the top and it won't be of any use. But because this is a background, sometimes you really need a bold background. And I'm going to finish the cards off all in the same way, so that you can see what effect it comes up with at the end of the day. Okay, so there's all of our Pigment Ink ones, and you can see that it's a much more solid colour as well. Okay, so that's that one. And then finally, before I finish them off, let me just clear this one up. I want to use the different colour. Just clear that up. Bring this one back in. And I'm going to use my larger piece here. And I'm going to pop that one sort of about like that, and then use our other one. So we can make a pattern out of it. So with this one, I've got to add the ink to the actual block, and I shall just pop a little bit of water onto that, bring that in, and we're going to pop that into the middle like that. Okay, so you're going to get the image of your acrylic block, but you're going to get that water effect as well. And then I'm going to do the same again with my smaller ones, so that you can kind of make a pattern as well on here, which gives a really nice effect. So let's just go for a random pattern like that. So your pattern can literally be anything, only determined by what sort of size and shape your acrylic blocks are. So I'm sure you've all got acrylic blocks sitting there that you may have discarded now, because you have already got used to your stamping platform when you're actually stamping. But if you have got some acrylic blocks sitting there, one of the uses can be making these fab backgrounds. So we've used all our inks now to make our backgrounds, and we don't need our acrylic blocks, because as I said, I'm going to do the stamping with my actual stamping platform just to be 100% sure. Bring these back in again, and hopefully, yeah, they are dry. So I'll do them in the order that we started off with, so that they get a chance to dry. So I'm going to make them into a 5x7. So it's a really simple size and a flat card. So again, we like that sort of thing for actually sending off, don't we? I'm going to pop that in my top left-hand corner of my stamping platform and hold it in place about there. I've used my clear stamping template to protect my work whilst I do put these on, because I always put these on, I always use these silhouette stamps, or nearly always, in black, and so I never bother to clean them. So they're always quite inked, and they do work better if you're doing your silicone, your silhouette. So I'm going to pop this into that sort of position, and I can see still that I've got my blocks, my background and where this is going to be. So I'm going to pop that onto there and pick it up with my platform. And then I know that if I did have any little bits of ink left on there, it's not going to have transferred into the wrong place before I actually put this down properly. So I'm inking it up with a VersaFine Clair Nocturne, so it's in black. And I'm just going to stamp that down into place. Now, probably will have to do that a couple of times. It's come out beautifully, but I'm going to do it a couple of times just to make sure that it is a really deep image. Okay, so beauty of the stamping platform, being able to go straight back over the top and know that I'm going to get it in exactly the right place. So I think that that looks quite fab already. So let's try with some of the other colours. So we had our one that we did on the side. Now I might want to change, let's just hold that in place. Might just want to change the position. Let's just see. Oh no, I think that works quite nicely actually. So let's go for that. So we're doing exactly the same thing, picking up the ink and then just bringing that straight down onto my page. And because we've got a silhouette stamp on the front, the whole idea is that you then look at that front image as opposed to the background, but the background can then just be the colours that enhance it rather than anything else. Okay, so that's that one. Then go on to our pigment ink. Now bear in mind that although it's not wet, it could still be a bit tacky because pigment ink takes a bit longer to dry. But I think I'm okay with that. And I'm going to use that in the same place and just exactly the same thing. And somehow when you're doing this, because you've got that solid image here, it just looks, it kind of like makes that pop rather than the background. Because I think you might not have liked that one to start off with. And then finally, which should be about dry now, not quite. Let me just give it a little zap. Hold on. Because we don't want it to bleed. I'm just going to, because of the noise, bear with me. Just going to dry that off a little bit. It's not saturated, obviously, but I do prefer to let it dry naturally because otherwise you can get that little warp to it. We shall just try and do it anyway. So pop that into position. And again, beauty of this type of design is that you've got a flat card. You can post that for your ordinary letter rate. You can put any sentiment that you want on it. I'm just going to put the little hugs one on there because I think that looks quite nice. But you can put anything. You can put with love, with sympathy, best wishes, you know, anything you like. And again, putting a silhouette stamp on the top of this brings the silhouette stamp to the fore, the others to the background, and it just mingles in nicely. So let me just finish these off. Now, there is one thing that you could do with these, which also looks quite nice. And that is to get your ink that you used, so this same ink, pop some onto, don't forget this is my silicone mat, I wouldn't put it on ordinary. And I'm just going to put a little bit of water with it. And then get my flicky brush is what I'm looking for. Looking and can't see yet. Here we are. This one will do. This will do. I'm just picking up a bit of that and then just flicking that. So it's the same colour flicky bits. Yeah, in the background there. So it kind of fills in that white space. If you're not so keen on the white space, I'll bring that up to the camera in a second. It just fills in that white space there and gives you that sort of a quite in what's the word? In fashion? Not really in fashion, but that splats is quite an in thing, isn't it, at the moment? And that's something that you can do with it if you pick the same colour. Now, obviously, because this one was the Pigment Ink, you can't do your water splats with it because the actual ink you use must be water soluble in order for that to work okay. But this one, you couldn't do that, unfortunately. But the others, the Distress Inks and the Memento inks, you can do that with it. And you can see the difference there, that one has not got the splats on and that one has. And I quite like the one with the splats on myself. So just to finish them off, as I said, it's going to go onto a 5x7 card blank. I've already cut myself out some 4 3/4 by 5 3/4 piece of black card because I was going to be doing my ink with the black Nocturne, so just fits in quite nicely. But of course you could do the same coloured inks or a similar type of coloured ink if you wanted to. That would also look very nice. So I'm just going to pop that onto there. And let's go for this one. Okay, so we just pop that onto the card front. So again, it's nothing rocket science on this one. It's just completely flat. And just so this one is 1/4 of an inch smaller again. So this one is 4.5 by 6.5, just so that fits on there nicely. And then I'm going to take my Hugs and Kisses, which I've cut out in black, and that's just going to go down there like that. So it couldn't be a more simple, and you can see I've knocked off here 4 in, what is it, 20 minutes. So it really is an ideal batch making card. I don't know, maybe if you've had an event and you want to say thank you to everyone for coming or that type of thing maybe, or just to have a card saying hi. Don't have to have a reason to send a card, do we? In fact, I think sometimes when you get a card when it's not a special occasion, I sometimes think that's even nicer. So there's our Hugs and Kisses one like that. And then let's finish another one off. So 5x7 card blank, 4 3/4 by 5 3/4 piece of black card. Just fit that in so that you've got that little border. Now, is this one still wet? Well, I think it's okay now. So I'm just going to pop some glue onto the edges here. And again, just give that light border. Just going to turn that over, just in case I've got wet bits on there. Turn that over and press that down. By pressing on the back, it gives you more chance to get an even coverage. And because it was a little bit warped, I wanted it to be nice and flat, which it is now. Okay, so there you go. Acrylic block stamping. Who would have thought it? Totally dependent on all sorts of things. Oh, I forgot to say that the white card that I've used is super smooth card. So for stamping, you would have a different look again if you did it on watercolor card. But this is the one that I use on every basis. So that's my go-to. It depends on what ink that you want to use. So Distress inks work really well, and other dye-based inks work really well, as does the Pigment Ink, works really well, but it will give you a very different look. So it will give you a much bolder look. Okay. Also, depending on what size your acrylic blocks are. If you've got the smaller one, you could have done lots of little patterns all over it. You can, as you see, intersperse the two. There really is such a lot that you can do with these. And as I said, a nice, oh, haven't put my hugs and kisses on. A nice simple card, ideal for batch making. So let's just put this sentiment on. We can't have hugs and kisses on one and not on the other, now can we? So, blimey. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a big helicopter coming over at the moment. Perhaps it's come to take me away. I won't sing that little song. Right. I will be back on Sunday morning at 11 with another YouTube video for you. Just to give you a few ideas of inspiration. Anything that you've seen today that you need to have in your stash, you might find that on maximumcrafts.com website under the Facebook Live section, despite the fact that it's YouTube Live. Long story. If you have liked what you see, and if you have a go, do go over to the Facebook page of Maximum Crafts and join in if you haven't already, and then post your cards that you've done in this same way, because it would be lovely to see what you've managed to do as well, and hopefully I've inspired you to do. And what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, and the new Sue Wilson squares collection is out, and they will be available to order on the website later on today as well. So there you go. There's our acrylic block stamping for you, along with the beautiful umbrella grass stamp and the Hugs and Kisses die set. And I hope you've liked it. So thank you so much for joining me today, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Okay, take care. Oh, hold on, let's see. Can anyone tell me if this is what's used to emboss dies the non-strip craft mat? Yes, indeed, that is. Nicola, if that's what you were asking. Yeah. But send me a message if you need to, if you're not quite sure. Okay. So yeah, it is a bit different. Nice and simple and slightly mucky, but not too bad. Okay then, everybody, take care. Have a great day, and hopefully I will see you on Sunday morning at 11. Thank you. Bye.